Since the first half century, Asian Americans have been involved in the entertainment industry when the original Siamese twins became citizens. Asian Americans play roles in films, theaters, and on television, but they're typically for shallow, stereotypical characters. Asian Americans working in the American film industry either had to hide their heritage or take on the role of a stereotypical Asian character. So, do you think Asians have enough representation in Hollywood?
No, I do not.
And why not?
Because generally you see most white people as actors, and Asians don't really play a big role whenever they're in movies. They're usually just supporting roles.
Only supporting roles. Okay.
Media, I believe that yes, Asians are definitely not represented as much as, say, white people. Like, if you look at the Oscars, like, take Jackie Chan, for example. Like, he's one of the first Chinese actors to finally win an Oscar, where, like, every other white person has, like, won an Oscar. So definitely I feel that, like, in movies, Asians are definitely misrepresented. Like, there are certain roles that, what's that movie? I forgot the movie, but there was this one guy, and it was an all Japanese cast played by white people.
The movie Ghost in the Shell is opening this weekend, but not without controversy. It's based on a popular Japanese comic, and it's been accused of whitewashing. The lead role is played by a white actor, Scarlett Johansson. But there are Asian entertainers in the movie, including Chen Han from Singapore. CGTN's Mei Lee sat down with him to get his thoughts on the criticism and what can be done to improve diversity in Hollywood.
Chen Han, I'm going to start off with a controversial question, and so please forgive me, but being a reporter and Asian, there's a lot of controversy leading up to this film because of the whole whitewashing criticism. I just would love to just get your thoughts on it because you're part of this film. And, you know, is it valid? Is it unfair to say that about this film? What are your thoughts?
I think it's a healthy conversation to have. You know, I think the topic is timely. In today's political climate, I think there's an awareness of representation, not just in film and television, but you know, in politics too, isn't it? That is just part and parcel of this world that we live in that's growing increasingly multicultural. It's more a question of people wanting to see on the screen a movie or fiction that reflects their own realities. So that is why I think we're hearing about it and why the subject has come up. Having said that, I think for the industry moving forward, it isn't just the actors, you know, the people in front of the camera. It is very important what's happening behind the camera as well. I think we need more representation with directors, producers.
And the decision makers, right?
Decision makers, investors, you know, executives. And that is a process. That is a lot of people to move to your way of thinking.
Right.
Because the industry has so many moving parts. And it's an industry that has been around for 100 years, you know. So I think the discussion is good.
It's healthy.
And healthy.
And using that influence that you have as an
Yes.
actor, as a producer, you've directed, you've
Yes.
done it all.
Yes.
So you see how it works to be
Yes.
able to have that influential voice.
Yes.
And so also, though, to see someone like you on the screen as an Asian male in a huge blockbuster, that also must feel good for you to be able to represent.
Yes, I feel very fortunate, obviously. I mean, this business is so tough for everybody, you know, not just ethnic minorities. I think you can speak to Caucasian actors, and most of them are out of work anyway. It's tough for everybody. So I feel very grateful to be in the position that I'm in. And of course, for the work to be appreciated and to be able to be that person for younger actors watching now, saying that I can be him or I can be even better than him, that is a privileged position to be in.
What I wonder, though, what your thoughts are on the fact that China is starting to, you know, have a bigger role in Hollywood and that kind of influence, what you think that might do to the industry on the whole. Ghost in the Shell, 2 different Chinese companies involved, right?
Yeah, I think it will have an impact, you know, as you said earlier, when you have decision makers and investors and people being able to support different kinds of projects, then you're going to see some of the decisions being impacted by the people who are making those decisions. However, having said that, it applies to very specific kinds of movies. You know, I think the big blockbuster movies, the movies that require, you know, a very big audience to make the money back. Those kinds of movies, yes, you know, you're going to see some decisions based on the size of the market that they need to appeal to.
The first Chinese people arrived in America during the California Gold Rush. They came here to start a new life, find jobs, and mine for gold. They were known for their cheap labor and were welcome for it. They were willing to work for average or lower wages and were careful not to provoke their fellow white neighbors. If a Chinese man did not wish to get a job, he could always mine for gold. The Chinese were surely in the promised land after escaping their war-torn country, and they were able to send a fair amount of money back to their families in China. However, their peaceful lives did not last very long. When the American newcomers found that rich surface gold claims were being exhausted since the previous gold prospectors had beaten them to the punch, they felt deceived and became highly disappointed. They took out their disappointment on the Chinese, abusing them of stealing their riches and supporting the notion of California for the Americans. Because of how the Chinese were dressed differently and had camps at mines separated apart from the white people, the Chinese were an easy target for racial hatred and became driven away from white people. Not only did white miners loathe the Chinese, the state legislature supported the xenophobic movement and passed Foreign Miners License Law in 1850. The Foreign Miners License Law was imposed a tax of $20 a month on foreign miners, leaving the foreigners penniless and depopulating mining camps. The law was repealed by the next year and renewed again, but it was prohibited in the following year. By the time the law was prohibited, the Chinese became targets for other racists.
Okay, so have you heard of the TV show Fresh Off the Boat?
Yes, I have.
And you know the plot of the show, correct?
Yes.
So, Fresh Off the Boat uses a lot of stereotypes to attempt to show their viewers the standard Asian American life. And why do you think that's good in any way?
I think it does, and at the same time it doesn't, because the TV show kind of stereotypes Asians and Asian parents to be strict, and they expect a lot of their children when that's true, but they over-exaggerate stereotypes a bit.
My mother came here in 1968 during U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War. My father came here in 1977 after the fall of Saigon and after having spent 2 years in a Cambodian refugee camp. Obviously, they had me. We're American, or specifically, we're Vietnamese American. Now, somewhere along the way, their first-generation son started experimenting with the real gateway drug, art. I started taking theater classes in high school and performing in musicals and plays. I loved it. I met people who have and will continue to influence me for the rest of my life. I got hooked on the rush of stepping on stage in front of a room full of strangers, and I haven't stopped since. I majored in it in college. I went on to train at a professional actor training program based in Houston and earned my MFA. I got to work on beautiful stories written by great writers like Tennessee Williams, Henrik Ibsen, and Shakespeare, with some very talented and open-hearted collaborators. Then I graduated, and it was time to move and start building a career. I moved to New Orleans in 2014 because of all the opportunities in film and television. I did everything an actor moving to a new market needs to do. I got new headshots, I connected with a good agent, and I started going on auditions. During one of my first on-camera auditions, I did all my work beforehand. I was off book, I had an understanding of the scene, I was focused, but I was still flexible in playing the scene. And the casting director said, "Good, that's great. Would you mind doing that in a more Chinese-y accent?" Yeah. That's when I realized that this industry has me in a box. There's a certain way I'm expected to sound, a certain way I'm expected to behave, and certain roles I'm expected to play. The majority of my on-camera auditions seemed to call for a voice that just wasn't my own. Broken English was expected to be my calling card. And I would vent to some of my peers, and some of them would say, "What? But your English is so good." To which I say, "Thanks, yours too." Others would make a more earnest attempt to connect and try to understand, but often many of them didn't have the experience of having their skin speak for them before anything else. Then I left. I traveled for some time, and then I moved to New York City. There I met a milestone. Not only did I meet people who understood, I met people who had been through the exact same things I had, if not worse. There was a national call for Asian Americans to share their experiences through the hashtag #MyYellowfaceStory. And from that, we got messages like, "That time on a TV show, a writer said, 'We hired you because you are Asian. Be Asian.'" What does that even mean? That time I was called in to play a Thai hooker and asked to translate my lines into whatever Asian language I spoke. Because we're all interchangeable, right? That time an audience member wrote in, "There were no blacks or Asians in Shakespeare's time." Inaccurate. Thank you. That time, the sound designer for my first play asked, "So what are we going to use? Chinky music?" Yeah. In grad school, I was told that if I was uncomfortable with white actors playing Asian roles, then I shouldn't have written Asian roles. Not only do we have trouble finding roles that we can play, we meet obstacles when we try to create them for ourselves. These messages were shared shortly after the casting announcements for the Ghost in the Shell movie. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, Ghost in the Shell was originally a Japanese anime centered around a character named Mokoto Kusanagi. She's a law enforcement officer in a futuristic Tokyo. In the live-action film adaptation, she is played by Scarlett Johansson in A Black Bob. Let's look at another movie that made splashes because of its casting. In the original story of Doctor Strange, the Ancient One was born 500 years ago, deep in the Himalayan mountains in an area we now know as Tibet. He devoted his life to studying the mystical arts to defend Earth against black magic. This is one depiction from the comics. In the live-action film, he is played by Tilda Swinton. Tilda Swinton, who seems to be wearing robes inspired by Buddhist monks. It's difficult in this industry because there are few roles written with an Asian setting or Asian characters in mind. The few Asian roles that exist are being played by Caucasian actors, resulting in Hollywood whitewashing. It's the practice of a white actor playing non-white roles. It takes the foundation of our identity, like our culture, our traditions, our origins, and our religion, and treats it like a costume. A step beyond that is yellowface. It's the practice of using makeup and prosthetics to make a non-Asian performer look East Asian. It dehumanizes us, and it feeds this idea that we're outsiders, that we just don't belong.
In all the roles mentioned before, Asian American actor roles have a trend. Roles that Asian American actors play in are an antagonist role. According to a Guardian article on whitewashing, Asian American actors said they rarely, if ever, got auditions for leading roles, and when they did get parts, they are frequently secondary to the plot or portrayed as offensive tropes. The article also mentioned that Asian characters make up only 3 to 4% of roles in scripted broadcast and cable shows in the 2014 to 2015 season, according to a recent University of California, Los Angeles report.
When someone like Scarlett Johansson is cast as the lead in an adaptation of a Japanese comic franchise, it's important to understand that the ensuing anger isn't just about that movie. And it's not just about Tilda Swinton playing a Tibetan character in Marvel's Doctor Strange, or Emma Stone claiming to be part Chinese and Hawaiian in Aloha.
My dad was half Chinese and half Hawaiian, and my mother's Swedish.
It's how all these casting decisions combined, dating back to the earliest days of Hollywood, have made Asians invisible at best, and at worst, the butt of a cruel joke. That's why fans notice when the characters from the Last Airbender cartoon become much lighter skinned for the live-action movie. And when John Rico goes from being Filipino in the novel Starship Troopers to being played by someone named Casper Van Dien.
I want to try it again, but this time, we need you to do an accent.
The fact is, things aren't getting better fast enough for Asians in Hollywood. In 1944, Aline McMahon was nominated for an Oscar for her yellow-faced role in Dragon Seed. Later on, Linda Hunt would win an Oscar for playing a Chinese man in The Year of Living Dangerously.
Right. Billy Kwan.
That was 1982, almost 40 years later. Basically everything else in the country had changed, except white people being cast as Asians. For a solid 2 decades, the Chinese detective character Charlie Chan was played by white men in makeup. But that was the 30s and 40s, right? Well, here's Jim Sturgis and Hugo Weaving reincarnated as Koreans for parts of Cloud Atlas.
Who are you?
Everyone remembers Mickey Rooney's infamous 1961 performance in Breakfast at Tiffany's as just fully unacceptable and racist, right? Well, 24 years later, Joel Grey delivered this Korean caricature in Remo Williams.
I think I can do something with him.
And another 2 decades later, here's Rob Schneider in I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry.
Now the Lings are a symbol of eternity.
Schneider is a quarter Filipino, so progress? Or how about Peter Sellers' 1968 role as a clueless Indian man at a dinner party?
Crush my own Indian hand.
A full 20 years later, Fisher Stevens was in brownface for Short Circuit 2.
It's not possible. We are the type of people who have every...
And another 24 years after that, Ashton Kutcher is doing this in a Pop Chips commercial.
I'm Raj. I'm a Bollywood producer. I'm looking for the most delicious thing on the planet.
Arguably worse than white people playing Asian characters is white people playing real-life Asian humans, which is what happened to Cora Lyjak in Argo, and to Jeffrey Ma, who appeared in the movie 21 as this character, even though in real life he was this guy.
Ben Campbell was the most gifted student at MIT.
It's not surprising that directors want to hire big names to attract producers and funding, but when they want to do stories about Asians and won't cast Asian actors, they should know that the blowback against that has been building for the better part of a century.
Sakini by name, interpreter by profession.
One of the early...
And have you heard of the film Doctor Strange?
No, I have not.
Well, Doctor Strange is a comic book movie. And in the film, the protagonist is portrayed by a white male. But in the comics, is portrayed by an Asian male. Why do you think Hollywood decided to cast a white male instead of staying true to the comics?
There are many possible reasons. One of them might be they don't have enough Asian actors, or another reason is they choose popularity, because white actors tend to be shown in more films. So I think that's because of it's America and white people are dominant, so they're chosen over Asian.
What kind of roles do you commonly see an Asian American play?
They're supporting roles. That's
just in general supporting roles?
Mostly supporting roles.
Okay, what about Asian American females? How do you think they are treated in Hollywood? And I see you go towards the bigger Asian American actors. There are more, but why have you referred to those certain American actors?
Because there are too little famous actors in Hollywood. It's kind of hard to name most Asian actors. So yeah.
Now, do you think Asian Americans have a fair chance in Hollywood?
I mean, it kind of depends.
你覺得有冇亞洲人入邊嗰啲你睇戲嗰陣時睇嗰啲 TV
少咯，嗰啲美國戲入邊有少亞洲人咯，有啲都冇亞洲人添。
咁你覺得點解啊？
覺得或者嗰啲美國人未接受我哋啲亞洲人咯。同埋我哋啲亞洲人嗰啲佢哋唔夠佢哋叻咯。
咁你覺得係咪嗰啲亞洲人個錯，或係咪個 Hollywood 唔俾佢哋入？
唔係啊。
唔係啊。咁。
我覺得亞洲人比較怕醜啲，同埋咧好多嘢都唔敢表露出嚟，同埋唔敢去講。
咁你知唔知道嗰個戲Doctor Strange？ 似係個 superhero 咁樣戲咯。咁Doctor Strange 係佢入邊 comic book 嗰陣時係亞洲人，不過而家有個 movie 出嚟，而家有個白鬼做個 role， 咁你覺得點解佢哋咁樣做啊？
可能佢哋睇亞洲人比較睇唔起亞洲人咯，歧視咯。
而家你係唔係你諗到幾多個亞洲 actor 咯？
我諗喺美國或者喺
美國
好似都冇幾多個亞洲 actor 喎。都冇幾多個人喺美國係出名嘅喎。
唔出名咩？
唔出名。
咁有咁少有我唔諗得幾多出嚟，我而家諗到出嚟10個 actor。咁你點解有咁少啊？
頭先咪講咗咯，我諗佢哋唔接受我哋啲亞洲人嘛。
咁有個新 TV show 叫做 Fresh Off the Boat， 你聽過未啊？
未。
咁 Fresh Off the Boat 即係全部都係亞洲人。咁嗰啲 actor 即係佢哋覺得佢哋係 immigrant， 佢啱啱嚟，咁佢而家
新移民。
係啊。咁佢而家想 accept American culture 咁你覺得冇好多亞洲 actor 咁呢個即係全部啲亞洲 actor 入嚟 act 你覺得佢哋個 lifestyle 點啊？
覺得如果鬼佬接受 OK 咯。
咁佢哋用好多嗰啲 stereotype， 你知唔知道 stereotype 係咩啊？
唔知。
咁佢哋用嗰啲 stereotype 即係成日都有嗰啲 actor 去話hello 係咁。
佢哋啲英文唔叻嘛？
唔係佢哋英文唔叻，係因為佢哋想 act 出嚟嗰啲 immigrant。
我哋想學嗰啲人啱啱嚟嗰啲 broken English。
咁你覺得佢哋應該係咪咁樣做噶？
唔應該，如果佢哋咁樣做咧，我哋聽落去咧，好似自己人睇唔起自己人咁。
Last week at the Golden Globes, co-hosts Tina Fey and Amy Poehler had jokes for some of Hollywood's biggest names in 2014. But when it came time to lampoon one of the most infamous names in Hollywood last year, they turned to the talents of comedian Margaret Cho. Now, Cho appeared deadpanning and speaking broken English as she played the part of star-struck North Korean general. It was a bit meant to poke fun at the North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, whose fictionalized assassination in Sony Pictures' The Interview led the country to declare the film an act of war before a cyber attack exposed all of Sony's secrets to the world. But not everyone was laughing. Response to Cho's routine was mixed, with reactions ranging from amusement to discomfort to offense to flat-out accusations of racism. But if anything, the intense scrutiny of Cho's performance reflected a reality faced by many performers of color, and Asian Americans in particular, that the burden of shouldering racial representation weighs heaviest when you are the only one carrying it on screen. As writer Kai Ma notes in Time this week, Cho's skit was, quote, in front of a non-Asian audience for an award show where Asian Americans have historically been absent as nominees or presenters or even guests, but where the one Asian American was assigned not as herself, but as a perennial stereotype. Things got uncomfortable. Faced with that reality, there's the option, as an Al Jazeera article argued this week, about Mindy Kaling of simply choosing to shrug it off. E. Alex Jung wrote of Kaling's show The Mindy Project that Kaling, it seems, thinks any considerations of race would detract from rather than enrich the rom-com framework she set up. Or when you get your shot at bringing your story to the mainstream, you could try to bring as much nuance and detail as you can to your individual immigrant experience. In an essay for New York Magazine, celebrity chef Eddie Wong let loose his frustrations about watching as his memoir, Fresh Off the Boat, became an ABC sitcom of the same name, writing, Fresh Off the Boat was a very specific narrative about specific moments in my life. The network's approach was to tell a universal, ambiguous, cornstarch story about Asian Americans resembling Mugu Gai Pan. But who is that show written for? Still with me is Janet Mock, MSNBC contributor and host of So Popular on Shift by MSNBC. Joining us now is Kevin Fallon, senior entertainment reporter for the Daily Beast, and writer and journalist Justin Chan. And joining me from Los Angeles is Jeff Yang, Wall Street Journal columnist and father of Hudson Yang, the actor who plays a young Eddie on Fresh Off the Boat. So nice to see you, Jeff. I actually want to ask you about the chopsticks question at the media event for Fresh Off the Boat, because it seemed like to me just got at the heart of the expectations about these shows. So the first question from a member of the press was, I wanted to ask the question, I love Asian culture, and I was just talking about chopsticks, and I just love all that. Will I get to see that, or will it be more Americanized? Jeff?
It's, we talk about uncomfortable moments, and I think that part of what that question really exemplified is the reality that because there's so little imagery of Asian Americans, so few Asian American images and stories represented on screen, people don't really know how to address where we're coming from, what we're trying to say, and how these stories are playing out on screen. What you mentioned about Margaret and the Golden Globes, Margaret Cho and the Golden Globes, and Fresh Off the Boat dealing with a question about eating utensils at a launching of one of the most buzzed about shows for mid-season TV, it's all part of the same thing. There's a lot of burden of representation when you're the only one.
So, Jeff, stick with us. I want to talk a little bit about that notion of a burden of representation. I mean, I was just sort of irritated about the fact that, that Ava DuVernay doesn't end up with an Oscar nod, in part because as an African-American woman, I see her and me, and
Yeah.
But on the other hand, people are having individual human experiences. Yeah. How do we balance that in the context of representation?
Yeah, I think throughout the course of American history, there's just been this common perception of Asians and Asian Americans as this sort of like the other, as this foreign group. And I think there's this real need for the entertainment industry to show the country, its audience, that the Asian American experience isn't one-dimensional, that it's a multitude of experiences. And the one thing that I really love about this new show that's coming out is that it tells a particular narrative. And it's not your stereotypical kind of Asian American experience. It's not about a guy who studies math or is trying to be a doctor or whatnot. It's about a guy who loves hip hop and embraces his family's immigrant background. And I think one way we can kind of get the entertainment industry to kind of show more of those narratives is to educate them about it. Sit down with directors, sit down with producers, and tell them, hey, throughout the years, you guys have been kind of portraying us as this kind of stereotypical kind of community, and we don't like that, and we want to tell you our stories.
Asian actresses were also targets of sexism. Back then, their roles were usually portrayed as Asian women as dominating or deceitful dragon ladies or subservient sex objects. Dragon ladies are depicted as charming and ferocious gold diggers. The dragon lady was popularized when Chinese-American actress Anna May Wong played dragon lady roles during her time in Hollywood in the early 1920s. Frustrated by her stereotypical roles, she moved to Europe and continued her work there. The dragon lady stereotype can be seen as an idea that enforces how Asian women are seen as devious or untrustworthy, or the stereotype can show how Asian women are fierce and assertive compared to its polar opposite, the China doll stereotype. The China doll, also known as Lotus Blossom, is a submissive and innocent Asian lady who is often sexualized and usually in a movie for exotic appeal.
So, Hollywood has made some, shall we say, interesting decisions when it comes to portraying Asians in movies. Granted, things have gotten better from the days of Peter Sellers playing Fu Manchu and Mickey Rooney playing Mr. Yunioshi in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Yes, that's a thing that happened. Asian actors and actresses are grossly underrepresented in movies, usually limited to supporting characters or extras. I'm sure you all remember Lee Clark-yong, the much-beloved Star Wars character and only Asian guy to appear in any of the Star Wars movies. So the one Asian guy in Star Wars crashes. By the way, I'm pretty proud I knew his name. But it's not just underrepresentation. They're actually giving away roles that should go to Asians to white people. It's called whitewashing. Apparently there's some belief in Hollywood that Asian leads just won't be understood by the American public. For example, the movie 21. It's about a group of MIT students led by John Chang and focusing on player Jeff Ma, who used card counting to win a fortune at blackjack. Card counting involves assigning a positive, negative, or zero value to each card value available. As cards are dealt, the count is changed based on their values, so high cards decrease the count and increase the percentage of low cards in the stack. Oh, I'm sorry, was that confusing? Okay, let me make it simpler. A group of MIT students led by Mickey Rosa, played by Kevin Spacey, and Ben Campbell, played by Jim Sturgis, used card counting to win at blackjack. Much simpler. I mean, that's crazy. That was a real story based on real people, and they just said, we don't want to cast Asians, just make them white. I mean, you might as well have a white guy play Genghis Khan.
They shall die the slow death.
What? Then there was the debacle of M. Night Shyamalan's take on Avatar: The Last Airbender. That was not only very, very terrible, but also all the characters in this distinctly Asian-influenced world were white, except the bad guys. Then there's Extraordinary Measures, Speed Racer, Dragon Ball Evolution, the upcoming movie based on the hit Japanese manga All You Need Is Kill, renamed Edge of Tomorrow and starring Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt, and even rumors that an upcoming live-action version of Akira, considered to be the pinnacle of Japanese animation, will have an all-white cast. And by no means is this limited to movies. Television is also a culprit, like Joss Whedon's Firefly. An amazing show in my opinion, but don't you think it's weird that in a distinctly Chinese-influenced setting, they decide they want to use the trappings of the culture, people kind of dress Asian sometimes and they're Asian-looking things, or even atrociously pronounced Chinese, but no Asian people. Actually, I believe there was an Asian prostitute in one shot somewhere. According to the movie database IMDb, only 1.8% of leading roles go to Asians. A little ironic since about 60% of the world's population is Asian. I mean, about a sixth are Chinese people living just in China. Oh my God. That means I'm a minority. Which brings me to my next point. As a member of the white minority, I know how hard it is to be judged based on your race. And that's why, on this very serious topic of racial discrimination, Hollywood is dealing with this difficult subject. It's not just rewriting Asian roles to be white. These newly rewritten white characters then have to overcome the discrimination they face for being white. Keanu Reeves will be starring in the upcoming movie 47 Ronin, a movie based on the historical account of 47 samurai who avenged the murder of their master. Now, obviously there were no white samurai, well, except that one time, but rather than cast an Asian guy as the lead of a movie, they created a brand new character for Keanu Reeves to play, Kai, the half-Japanese, half-British, half-breed outcast who joins the group. His character is discriminated against for being white. It's not really clear if there are now 48 Ronin or they got rid of one so they could fit in Keanu Reeves, but they did the same thing with the movie King of Fighters, rewriting a Japanese character as half-white and then having to deal with racial discrimination for being half-white. I mean, do you know what it feels like to not fit in just because of the color of your skin? To be discriminated against for just being yourself? It's so nice Hollywood is able to use its horrendous racial discrimination to tell the story of racial discrimination against whites. And of course, we have to throw a bunch of Oscars at movies like The Departed, a near shot-for-shot remake of Infernal Affairs, and keep your eye out for Oldboy, the Spike Lee remake of the Korean Bloody Revenge movie, now starring Josh Brolin. Even when movies try to be more globally minded, like Pacific Rim, a movie about the world pooling its resources to build giant robots to fight giant monsters in an epic battle in Hong Kong, co-starring a strong Japanese female lead, the Chinese guys are still killed in the first moments of the first fight, leaving the white guy to save the day. And the Japanese girl fall for him, a la Pocahontas, Avatar, Dancing with Wolves, The Last Samurai, Ferngully. Well, let's just say it happens a lot. But for now, it seems like Asians are stuck being extras in their own country. As in Come See the Paradise, 7 Years in Tibet, The Lost Empire, The Last Samurai, Tokyo Drift, The Grudge. Well, let's just say it happens a lot.
Why do you think that Asians have such a lack in media?
That's a good question. I don't know, maybe it's just because, like, Asians don't really, like, the stereotype isn't really that they're actors. Like, they're good at math and playing piano and doing karate. Okay, that was really bad. But, okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Sorry. But yeah, like, they're just like, it's not, I don't think it's quite as popular in Asia to be an actor. I feel that that's more of an American thing, definitely. And so the values of Asians is just different, you know? Like, you're not going to see that many Asian actors, I feel. And especially in the media, I feel that, like, there's not a lot of Asians in the media. In America, that is. I mean, I know there's, like, K-pop. That's pretty popular nowadays. So I think that Asian culture is starting to come into media and be more representative, but or better represented. But I feel that it's just not. There's still, you can definitely tell that Asians aren't quite represented like the way that they should be, you know?
Do you think that Asians have a fair chance in media in comparison to other ethnicities?
I would say that they have just as fair a chance as like anyone else to be an actor. Like ideally, like if you really put in the work and you act your butt off, you can make it. But I also feel that it's not completely true, just because like in acting, it seems that I think Asians do have a fair chance of making it in media. It's just there's not as many of them in media, I feel. And so there's not like a large enough number
like if you think about quantity over quality, I feel that Asian actors definitely, some of them have great quality, like Jackie Chan, Jet Li. Those are some famous Asian actors. I mean, yes, they're like in those action kung fu movies, but still, I feel like there's just not enough Asian people or Asian actors like to represent the demographic very well in like media, because there's just so many. Take the amount of like white people, for example, in like as actors. Like you can easily see like a ton of just like almost every role there's gonna be a white person, you know. Like Asian actors, you don't really see that very often.
So, Iron Fist in comics, it's an Asian man.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay.
So how do you feel that?
It's portrayed by a white guy.
Yes.
Okay. How do I feel about?
Yeah. How do you feel that Iron Fist, the leading role in in a Netflix original, was represented by a white guy when he was originally Asian?
Well, I feel that while that might not bring justice to the character, that's a comic book, and you know you can really change characters like any way you want, really. Like, for example, who was I thinking of? Like, just because the comic book character was Asian, I mean, maybe it was even just because the director thought that people wouldn't be able to connect with the character as well if they were Asian. I don't know why. I mean, it just seems like sometimes the lead is like the demographic that the director might want people to focus on or to relate to, and so they chose a white guy because he's more relatable than say like an Asian guy. I don't really know like how that would work, but I don't know. That's kind of just how I'm thinking right now.
And have you heard of the show Fresh Off the Boat?
I have, yeah.
Do you know what it's about?
Yeah, it's about the Asian family that comes from, I don't know if it was China, or I'm not sure about the country they come from, but I know they come to America and they're fresh off the boat, or FOB is the
acronym?
Yeah, the acronym. Thank you. Yeah, so FOB is like the acronym. It's like about this Asian family that goes to America and they basically try to live an American life.
All right. And do you think that Fresh Off the Boat portrays Asians the way they should have been represented in media?
No, because I feel like Fresh Off the Boat is just a lot of stereotyping of the of Asian culture and just.
So, do you think Fresh Off the Boat does Asian Americans justice in media? Or does it represent them accurately?
No, I would say that the Fresh Off the Boat characters in the show are very stereotypical, I would say. That, like, Chinese people aren't all like that. I mean, maybe if you're from another country, sure, you might have some of those tendencies that the characters do, like not able to speak English very well, or trying to fit in, right? That's normal about, like, an immigrant coming to a country, but I think it's taken over the top a little bit, just in some cases where, like, they don't really change as characters very much. And they're not very, like, realistic sometimes.
Okay.
I don't know, I feel like it's just, like, it's, like, some of the stereotypes are just, like, drawn out to, like, be funny. Like, it's not necessarily, like, to be real, you know?
And lastly, can you name as many Asian actors as you possibly can?
Jackie Chan, Jet Li, I would say that's it, off the top of my head.
Okay.
Jackie Chan 啦，Daniel Wu 啦，Jet Li 啦，
I think her name is Brenda Song. Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee,